All right. So going into these questions, right? So what type of things do you think that couples should really work on before they get married?
Right off the bat, I would say plan your marriage as much as you plan your wedding. Okay. So with as much energy and effort you put into planning the wedding and making sure that this is done and that is done for the wedding, make sure you put those same details and attention towards your actual marriage. Like, have a conversation about who's going to do what in terms of roles, who's going to do laundry, who's going to cook. Let's discuss these bank accounts. Are we going to have 2 checking account, 1 savings account? Like, really, really get into the meat and potatoes of what your marriage is going to look like going into your marriage, so that you have a clear understanding of what is and what isn't going to happen and what's going to take place. Because a lot of times when we say I do, we're looking at a $10,000 wedding bill or $50,000 wedding bill, and we don't have a house. We're still staying in an apartment. Not that there's anything wrong with those things, but I'm just saying, make sure you're allocating and planning the marriage itself as opposed to the actual wedding. And just really sit down and have a conversation about expectations. A lot of times we don't discuss what's expected of the other person. I expect you to hold me 3 nights a week, or I expect you to cook 4 nights a week. Well, how many times a week do you want to have sex? Like, it sounds crazy that we would be having these types of conversations, but it really is important to have that forthright conversation before, you say I do.
Yeah. So do you think that couples undersell the value of preparation? Like when they talk about like getting ready for marriage and things like that, do you find that people just are kind of lackadaisical sometimes with preparation?
I think we're kind of taught that there is no preparation for marriage.
Yeah.
But, just like before you go work out, you need to stretch.
Yeah.
So when you think about like your relationship, you do the pre-work. That's why premarital counseling is so important, or pre-canna, or whatever they call it in each community. That's why those things are so important, because it kind of gets you talking about things you haven't thought about, because you're looking at this through rose-colored lenses and you're all in love, and you don't understand that you're going to have to be in love past the like. When you're married, and that your marriage is going to go through these different changes. So when I'm talking to couples, I like to use the analogy of a house being built or a skyscraper. I'm from Chicago, so I like to throw in my little Chicago analogy. And when you talk about a skyscraper or a house for that matter, when you think about your foundation, you have to put your roots deep down in the foundation in order for that foundation not to shift. Now, you can redecorate the whole entire house. You can tear down walls. You can, add this or add that. But if that foundation is not strong enough, it's not going to be able to withstand any of the remodels. And in this case, the relationship issues that you're going to go through, it's not going to withstand any of that. So that's why it's important to have those conversations and to be able to have them candidly, vulnerably, and nakedly, if that makes sense. Because, a lot of times it's like we have these conversations and then somewhere down the line, either she throws it back in his face or he throws it back in her face. And when you talk about being committed to one another, this is supposed to be your best friend. This is your confidant. This is your person your go-to person. And you should be able to discuss anything. And some of those things are things that are going to rock the boat.
Yeah. So how important do you think physical connection is?
Absolutely.
Listen,
well, let's just be real. Men are attracted to what they see first.
Yeah.
And women are attracted to the chemistry in what they see first. So when you think about, there has to be some type of attraction. Otherwise, you're going to wander, meaning you're going to wander with your eyes. You're going to wander with your thoughts. So there has to be something that you're attracted to. And then that leads to that chemistry. The chemistry has to be there, but the chemistry also has to be cultivated. A lot of times we tap into we was doing it from the chandeliers when we first met, or, there was this amazing chemistry and we would stay on the phone until, we dropping the phones on our foreheads because, we're so tired, but we still want to talk. That's true. But once the honeymoon phase is over, now the work begins.
Yeah.
Now you really have to put in that work to keep that thing, that chemistry, that energy, that excitement going. And once you have kids and throw them into the picture, now there's more work to do. And who has time for chemistry? Who has time to be connected? But you got to find that time. You got to make that time. You have to be just as committed to that time before, during, and after kids.
Yeah, but would you say that's more of a prioritization thing, like people making that a priority in their relationship?
It's something that has to be done. And it definitely needs to be a priority, because when the kids are going to grow up, the kids are going to go off and do their own thing. At some point, you're going to retire. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people like to put emphasis on their jobs and their careers. At some point, you're going to retire. And then you don't want it to be a situation where you're retiring and now you have to get to know this person that you loved all these years all over again. You're going to have to get to know them. You're going to have to fall in love with them. Why not cultivate that as we go on? See, we're not taught that.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the thing about, like, I guess relationships in general, or even marriage in general, is that no one gives you a handbook to show you that kind of stuff.
Correct. Absolutely. And it's funny because, I say this all the time too. Your bridal party is not just somebody that's going to be cute in your wedding. A lot of people misunderstand who the bridal party is. The bridal party is supposed to be the people that's going to hold you accountable in your marriage. The people that you can go to when a problem arises in your marriage, and they're going to encourage you to either work through it, work it out, or work on something else. Like that's who your bridal party should be. There's people in your bridal party that you should look 2 years down the line for advice, or at the very least vent to, but then, okay, now we need to come up with a solution, not somebody that's just going to be like, well, this and this and this and that, and kind of egg it on, so to speak.
Yeah. So why would you say that the bridal party is that important, though, right? Or why would you say that?
They're supposed to be that. I'm not saying they are that. That, back in the day, if you look at the history of bridal parties, that's kind of where that comes from. That those people that you put in your wedding are not fly by the night people. They're not people that's not going to be in your life 10, 15 years from now. I'm not saying things don't happen. I'm just saying that when you're considering your bridal party, that's what you should be considering.
Oh, okay. So what are some of the things that you see, I guess, as couples, they struggle with, right? Like, especially in the onset of their relationship, what have you seen, which is those areas of struggle?
We struggle financially. We struggle emotionally. We struggle, with being able to express ourselves, like our true version of ourselves. We struggle in those areas, which can create a hiccup. We also struggle with not sharing our expectations out of fear of rocking the boat. I know I like oral, but I didn't tell you that because I didn't want you to think that I was a creep or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, those are very real issues that can kind of come up in the relationship. Or I have really bad credit. You know what I mean? Like, put it all out there on the table, because if it's something that can be worked on, you can do that together. Yeah.
That emotional and sometimes physical vulnerability is scary.
Yes, it is absolutely very scary. But who better to do it with than the person you're spending the rest of your life with?
True, that is true. But I think that's something that most people don't consider, especially when it comes to allowing themselves to be that vulnerable. That's the thing.
We have to create safe spaces for that.
Yeah.
And a lot of us don't know how to create the safe space, but the safe space definitely has to be there, because your partner, your marriage partner, your husband, your wife should have your front, your back, your sides, and your middles. And the only way to do that is to be able to have a safe space to discuss the hard stuff, the uncomfortable stuff, the life stuff, the inevitable stuff. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of couples miss something amazing by not having those moments.
Yeah. And I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head too, that safe space is something that I think that most couples struggle with, which is how to create, that safe space for the other person to feel vulnerable and to feel like they can actually kind of, let that guard down and be their selves. Right.
I think a great way to start that, or a great place to start that, is pick a place in your house, your apartment, wherever you're living, and say, okay, this is going to be like our sacred space. You create this space, and it doesn't have to stay a certain way, but when you all come to that table and say, okay, we're having safe space conversations tonight, just that simple, safe space conversations. And you say, okay, this is where I need my friend. This is with no judgment zone. This is where we're going to say what we're going to say, and we can't bring it up beyond this moment. You know what I mean? In terms of throwing it back in each other's faces. And you put it all out there. Because 9 times out of 10, I can guarantee you it's a conversation that can be had not only with your partner, but it can also be had where you can learn something from each other as well.
Okay. So when it comes to, I guess, the connection in a relationship, whether that's emotional and or physical connection, how have you seen couples kind of lose that? Right? How have you seen that connection get lost in a relationship?
Wow. It gets lost in the jobs. It gets lost in the house. It gets lost in the mortgage. It gets lost in time. It gets lost in lack of planning. It gets lost in comfortability. It gets lost in so many things that we chalk up to. You look up and you're years apart and you don't even know how you got there.
Yeah.
And it's too many things happen in that interim that goes back to that foundation. You know, I say cracks in the foundation are things like, you know, well, you didn't repair this, or you didn't do that, or you didn't dig your foundation deep enough. And those cracks are those things that we talked about. And then you look up and you have, you know, the guy or the girl complimenting you at your job, and you say that you're work husband and wife, and now you're flirting with that person. You know what I mean? It's like little cracks like that where they feel safer there than they do at home. And that should never be. Yeah.
And those, like you said, those cracks are created over time due to lack of intention and doing things to maintain the relationship. Right?
Absolutely. And lack of creativity. You know, we talk about love languages a lot in our businesses, you and I, and a lot of us tend to love people in our love language instead of loving them in their love language. Mm-hmm. And that creates the rift. If I like gifts and acts of service, and you like, you know, what is that? Words of affirmation, but I'm loving you in gifts and services. Am I really, really making the effort to love you in your love language, or am I really just trying to force my love language on you? And that's one of those very real conversations that we tend to kind of brush over and don't have on purpose because we don't want to rock the boat. And sometimes we really just don't want to put forth the effort. We kind of want everything to be like it was when we first met and all the energy was there and all the chemistry was there. But love is work. Marriage is work. It shouldn't be difficult work, but it is work.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times people just get, complacent and comfortable.
Absolutely. You know, you love me now. I don't have to do anything else. Mm-hmm. But you still have to cultivate that thing. You still have to take her or him out on dates. You still have to do the things you did to get your partner. You know, you still may have to do some planning, do something exciting, be spontaneous. You know, all these things we tend to forget about once we fall in love and once we say, I do. Just because you said I do, that doesn't mean you don't have to do and do and do over and over and over again.
Yeah, you are correct. I just think that, and this was for some people, they get wrapped up in everything that you were saying earlier, like work, kids, life. Mm-hmm. And that becomes the excuse. You know, like that becomes the thing that you blame to just say, hey, I have all these things, so I can't focus on that person.
Exactly. You know? But guess what? You did it effortlessly when y'all first met. You know what I mean? Like if you think about when you first meet a person and y'all start dating, you still got that same job, right? You still got responsibilities. You still got bills. You still have all the things, but you juggled them well because you wanted to see that smile on that person's face, or you wanted to go out on a date with them, or you went into debt, making sure that they were pleased beyond measure with whatever date you planned. So yeah, it was fun in the beginning because it was easy. It was getting what you want. And those are those different type of endorphins when you're going out there and you're getting what you want. But that same intentionality, that same effort, that same energy needs to be put forth on purpose, even beyond the honeymoon phase.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. I think that energy, that level of intention, can't be forced. So
absolutely,
because I know that sometimes, depending, especially in that courting stage, certain people like to kind of, you know, push push the envelope when it comes to bringing information out of the other person instead of allowing that person to give them what they need, basically.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I think that to me, and in that scenario, I think that creates an unhealthy dynamic, right? Because as a relationship matures, then that person gets used to that. Like
absolutely. Yes. And now you're marrying the representative, or you've fallen in love with the representative. And it's like, I'm a firm believer that the representative lasts about a year and a half, maybe 2 years max. And then eventually you're going to start seeing that person for who they are. And it's like, okay, you're already in love now. So now what do you do with that? You know what I mean? So that's why it's important to be able to be vulnerable, be able to have those conversations, be able to say, this is what I want, and own it. You know what I mean? And then ask your partner, can you give it to me? Because unfortunately, sometimes your partner is incapable of giving you what you want, need, and desire. And that's a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah, and you're definitely right about that. And again, I think that it goes back to couples feeling that they have a space to have that conversation.
Yes.
And actually them knowing how to have, actually just start those types of conversations with the other person as well. So when we talk about like things to kind of strengthen the relationship and help couples kind of grow together, what type of resources can couples kind of utilize or find to kind of really just help build their relationship?
Well, of course, you have books. They now have a lot of organizations that help with things like that to help them cultivate their marriage, groups that are designed to kind of help you get through the tough times or the icky stuff that couples tend to go through. You know, you have coaches and counselors all over the world now that help with specifics like infidelity or, intimacy. So for every struggle, there's a resource out there and available. My suggestion is, if you're in need of those resources, is to do it before one person decides that they're out. Yeah. What do I mean by that? Usually when we get to therapy, one person is already out and they're only doing it to appease the other person. So before you get to that, make that one of your dates. Let's go see a coach. Make that one of your date nights. I think that's a great idea. Take a challenge. There's tons of relationship challenges that are out there right now. Take a challenge.
Yeah, there a lot of couples don't. I guess when they talk about like receiving help or assistance with their relationship, a lot of people just reluctant. Like they're very reluctant to talk to someone else about their particular issues or problems because it's a stigma. I'm not sure if there's that stigma.
It's definitely a stigma. This is, and you probably can attest to this, our jobs is very, very hard. People would rather pay more money for their shoes and shopping for shoes than they do cultivating their relationships.
Yep.
So when you think about it, the goal for us, I believe, is to show them that the love is in the work. The relationship is in the work. Cultivating what we have together is in the work. And it doesn't have to be this tedious, draining, drawn out, painful thing. It can be fun if we just understand the power in doing it together.
Yeah. I just, and I'm absolutely with you on that. I just think that in this type of culture, sometimes everyone is so result driven, like everybody's looking for, if I do A, am I going to get B, which is that result out of it. And absolutely. A lot of times when we talk about relationships and relational issues, the result is not going to come, as quickly as most people might think it might go.
I say this again a lot. I said, you can't get crockpot loving in microwave time.
Yeah.
You just can't. It's ongoing, just like loving yourself. It is ongoing. It's challenges in between. It's uphills. It's life. Life is somebody say, life be lifing. Life is happening all around you in your relationship. And in those relationships, you got to figure out if you all are going to do it together, or if you're going to do this tug of war thing where you're constantly pulling when you could be pulling together.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of couples miss that because we haven't been taught these things. We haven't really, unfortunately, we haven't seen a multitude of healthy relationships to go on. So we're just kind of dangling by the seat of our pants like, okay, well, what do we need to do, and figuring it out as we go along. But again, if you use like those key fundamental things that I shared at the beginning of this, I think a lot of what we go through, we can grow through.
Yeah. And I'm totally in agreement with that. Like I said, you're right. Through consistent work, being deliberate, being intentional.
Absolutely.
And not just kind of being too comfortable with the person that you're with.
You can't. Here's what if the pandemic has not taught us anything, it has taught us you cannot become comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Because just when you think you know what's happening, life will flip you upside down. So you can't get comfortable in life. You can't get comfortable at the job. You can't get comfortable at home. You definitely can't get comfortable in your relationship. Mm-hmm. It always has to be one of those things like, and it's funny because how you have to get your driver's license renewed every 4 years or something like that. Mm-hmm. I think we need to have conversations where we do check-ins in our relationships and in our marriages. You good? Okay, does anything needs to be different? Am I handling A and B, C, D? Are we getting this done? Are we getting that done? What can I do better? I definitely think we need to be having conversations like that.
Yeah. And I think that to add to that, these conversations need to happen daily.
Man, at the very least weekly, mm-hmm. Just checkpoints, or, you can call them pulse checks. You can come up with your own creative name or, however you want to do it. But it's key to the longevity of the relationship and marriage.
Yeah, it is to always have a pulse on the relationship.
Absolutely. And your pulse, not your friend's pulse and not your family's pulse. Mm-hmm. It has to be your pulse. Because how sometimes we go outside the marriage to try and help figure out and fix what's wrong with it before consulting and having deep-rooted conversations with your actual partner. Mm-hmm. And then you all decide together what type of help you're going to get or what type of help you need.
Yeah. I mean, that's always the best course of action is to talk to the person that's involved in the relationship versus going.
Or heading straight to social media. Like you and I both know this, but that still doesn't stop a lot of us from doing it.
Yeah, you're right. I said this before. Social media is a poor example of how relationships sometimes are seen, because on social media, you get the best images of the relationship. Like you get all the happy times, the trips, the romantic dates and all these things. But sometimes through social media, they don't share the real,
Yes, absolutely.
The work that comes in with that, and sometimes even the ups and downs, the problems that most couples may have. Because every couple has a certain level of issues. Absolutely. And that kind of stuff is not always, publicized like that, unless it's reality TV. And of course, it's publicized like that.
And then it's fake. Yeah.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. I don't knock social media or anything like that when it comes to specific things. But sometimes when it comes to relationships, sometimes I believe that sometimes couples get too much.
Absolutely. And everything has a place, Yeah. Too much anything is too much anything.
Yeah. Yeah. But definitely thank you for this conversation. I definitely.
We're done already?
Yeah, it was 5 questions. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was 30 minutes. It was very quickly.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that was quick.
Hey, I had a blast.
I was ready to go. I was like, okay, what else are we talking about?
No, I had a blast.